Well, I'm going to read also. Individual feces focused in common welfare in Attic funerary epigrams. This paper will analyze the use of the noun feces in Attic funerary epigrams from the Classic Age, as compiled by Hansen in Carmina Epigraphica Graeca, with the intent of remarking that what is emphasized throughout this noun is always related to the common welfare within the polis, rather than merely the deceased himself or herself. In ancient Greece, the rituals that used to be carried out when someone died, which are prothesis or the exhibition of the deceased, ekphora or procession, and burial or cremation, besides lamentations and acts of purification, used to be an event where not only family members and people close to the deceased participated, but also the community in its whole. These events were so important that it was constantly legislated on them. Even what would happen in the remains of the deceased was related to the whole of society. For instance, in Athens, since adults couldn't be incinerated within the city walls, tombs would be grouped around the gates and along the roads that led to the city. The most prestigious sites, those for the wealthiest individuals, judging by the size and quality of their monuments, were those closest to the main road. As part of social performance on deaths, it was important to leave a physical record of the place where the deceased had been buried, as it shows in Homer. Borchert explains that the tomb at the beginning was marked with a rock, but later, in the circle of tombs in Mycenae Pit, tombstones would be erected with engravings. From the 7th century, with the introduction and spreading of writing on top of a higher stone or on the basal that contained their remains, the name of the deceased would be written. Later on, this would turn into an epitaph or long funeral inscription. After Cleisthenes' reforms at the end of the 6th century, the private custom of inscribing a rhymed epitaph on tombs disappeared and gave way to exclusively the public commemoration of those fallen in combat. Such practice resurged more or less 50 years later, around the year 460, and peaked around the 4th century. Even though funerary inscriptions presented various types of metrics, the epigram was the one with the greatest boom. Thus, during all of the Classic Age, in Athens, funerary epigrams used to be a way for the deceased family to show themselves before the polis and presented their deceased beloved one with the attributes the community asked of him or her. Because of this, and the fact that the epigram required being concise and brief, every word inscribed there had to be thought carefully to make sense to all the people who would read the epitaph when passing by. In these epigrams, the noun feces appears rarely, and is always related to something about the polis. 1. Mortality by nature, thneto physei. First, this noun is used once to refer the mortality of the deceased in CG 560. Antiphon, son of Euphanes, having practiced those things which must belong by nature to a mortal man, id est, sophrosine and wisdom, amount of earth covered me. Mortality of human beings, as opposed to immortality of ghosts, was present in the Greek mind since Homer. For instance, in Iliad, when Diomedes goes against Aeneas, his protege, he says, I quote, "Think, Diomedes, drink back now. Enough of this madness striving with the gods. We are not of the same breed. We never will be. The deathless gods and men who walk the earth." This states that men and gods are in different planes, and furthermore, the first is clearly inferior. So it can be thought that from the Iliad, a cornerstone of Greek ideologic education, it was clear that men could not trespass the limits towards the sphere of divinity. However, the human being was always thought with a certain independent ability of action. Bruno Snell explains that this is known as the theory of double motivation, in which first comes the decision of the gods and it is later adopted by the human being. For instance, while being on magician Circe's island in Odyssey, Hermes arrives to communicate that Odysseus must leave, and immediately after this, he takes the same decision. This freedom of mortals can be seen in the epigram we are analyzing, when I made an effort, as Kesanta is mentioned to achieve prudence and wisdom. Arthur Adkins says that the first attribute, sophrosine, is related to the practice of arete and contrary to a state of insanity, as is used from the Iliad. Chagalis, on his end, says the democratization of sophrosine is a trademark of the Athenian 4th century and presents a society in transition, where the restoration of Sophron Politeia was by far the highest priority in the political agenda. Hence, this attribute is obtained. One has to work hard to achieve it, and it is a cornerstone for the proper constitution of the polis. Helen North states that the influence of the polis can be seen clearly in the speeches of Attic speakers, which outline Sophron Polites, the law-abiding citizen who, ideally in the 4th century, has the following characteristics. He is a devoted democrat who hates oligarchy, is loyal and generous with fellow citizens, and willing to develop liturgy, and in his private life is modest, harmless, and against litigation. So, from his mortal nature, thneto physei, the deceased Antiphon worked hard to achieve prudence, which is one of the main attributes that Athenian polis expects from its inhabitants. And throughout the epitaph, the family remarks it. 2. Fatherland by nature, patrides segemen physei, herenomoisin. In funerary epigrams, the term physis was always used once to oppose the land where the deceased was born to the one that saw his death. In CEG 593. The earth, Dionysius, covers here your body, but it is our common dispenser who holds your immortal soul. To your friends, mother and sisters you have left, the immemorable mourning of your love as you perished. In turn, your two fatherlands, one by nature, the other by law, were fond of you because of your great soundness of mind. The first thing to notice is that the mention of those fatherlands is aimed towards highlighting the prudence of the deceased, an attribute that was previously discussed. Many epigrams specify when the deceased was not from Athens. The number of foreigners was, in the classic age, extraordinarily high beyond comparison, says Fritz Schnitzer. There are three elements that explain this situation: the growing fluctuation in foreign population, stricter obstacles to becoming a citizen, so foreigners would remain so, and the perfecting of the law for strangers, meaning that their legal status improved. It is by Xenophon that we know that the barbarians constitute a large portion of the foreign community living in classic Athens. About this, Nicole Leroux says that the Athenian democracy needed the foreigners due to the various services they fulfilled for the citizens' community. And far from merely tolerating their presence, it was actively encouraged. Austin and Vidal-Naquet, on his side, say that the polis of the citizens cannot exist without the presence of foreigners. This is why it is understandable that in the epitaph, the fact that the deceased had two fatherlands is remarked: where he was born, Physei, and where he lived, Athens, and that he practiced sophrosine in both of them, a fundamental attribute for the adequate functioning of society. 3. Attributes by nature. Another way of using the term physis is to specify the attributes one is born with, as opposed to those that are obtained. In two epigrams, CEG 483, Olympiodoro of Polemo, Sotio. Here the ground keeps Sotio, the best in the craft he practiced, having amongst everyone a nature of virtue missed by citizens, since he was always nice to everyone and had a very righteous soul to his friends. And in CEG 567, Bacchios of Amphis from Kerameikos. In the trade of those who mix earth, water, and fire, all of the Hellas judged that he, Bacchios, Due to his natural skill, among his rivals, he should take the first prize. And among the contests the city proposed, from them he obtained all of the crowns. Both epigrams highlight crafts, technai. In the first one, it is not specified what the deceased practiced. He merely stands out from his colleagues by saying he has the virtue in it, arete. And on the second, the neighborhood of Kerameikos, the materials and the contests, agonas, are mentioned, which is why we can tell he's a potter who had several victories. As we know, the Greeks were competitive people. They had contests not only for comedy and tragedy, but also for sculptors, potters, physicians, and dancers, among other things. It is hence understandable that funerary epigrams highlight victories obtained within them. When it comes to the value given to techne, it can be seen that it wasn't the same in all fields of it. What Athenians celebrated, according to Thucydides, were the military and political. So it is very likely that social distinction, maybe even contempt, existed toward others. For instance, hand labor obtained a negative connotation, according to Xenophon in the Economics as spoken by Socrates. I quote, "But we reject, according to the cities in our examination, those called handcrafts, since they not only seem to ruin the body, but also upset the soul." Aristotle also thinks this way. I quote, "Certainly the good man and the statesman and the good citizen ought not to learn the crafts of inferiors, except for their own occasional use. If they habitually practice them, there will cease to be a distinction between master and slave." It can be understood, hence, that the epitaph brings up that the deceased had been a potter, not because of the simple fact of being it, but for having won contests. Something that highlights the fact of having that dexterity by nature, physe. In fact, Aristotle himself, when defining specific attributes from birth, instituted the hierarchical structure of his society as valid by nature for all time and place. This is why it was clear for the person who had the epigram made which attributes had to be highlighted and why. 4. Acquired attributes. Finally, the term physis appears twice to name attributes one is not born with, but which are obtained. First, CEG 550. All of Hellas and Virgil and yearns for the sacred contest, Euthias, not without justice, who in technique, not by nature, in comedy that produces the sweet laughter as it is crowned by Racime's "You were second," but were born first in this position when it comes to wisdom. Euthias did not have the necessary by birth, uhi to win a comedy contest, but he acquired it and achieved it in such a way that it is what his epitaph remarks, which takes us to remember Antiphon's epigram that reads, "He worked hard as Kesanta to obtain prudence and wisdom." We must emphasize that it was the polis that organized contests of tragedies and comedies, which is why being an actor, director, or taking part of them was a source of pride for the deceased as much as for his family. This is why it was inscribed in his epitaph. The second epigram that names acquired attributes is addressed to a woman, CEG 525. Glycera, daughter of Thucleides. Glycera truly had what is rare for the same woman, namely to be born good and moderate. Based on this epigram, it can be stated that it was thought that women are not good or moderate by nature, but it is important that they get to become so. Helen Nord, in her work on Sophrosine, explains that this concept on women remains the same throughout the history of Greek thought, which can be seen in Pericles' speech as referred by Thucydides. I quote, "If I am to speak also of women and virtues, referring to those of you who will henceforth be in widowhood, I will sum up all in a brief admonition. Great is your glory if you fall not below the standard which nature, Physeos, has set for your sex, and great also is hers of whom, There is least talk among men, whether in praise or in blame. Prudence in women resides in a constant restraint of themselves, which allows avoiding every excess and inconsistency. It is a complex term that includes chastity, reservation, seriousness, and ponderation, says Verilac. Plato, on his political utopia, thinks that women should be educated the same way as men. In the Republic, he makes a parallelism between the female watchdogs and women, saying that they should also guard and hunt. Here, the author is opposed in the name of nature to the usual opinion in Greece about women, who were considered beings entirely different to men and, in a certain way, inferior, which is why they were not part of the same activities. On his part, Aristotle, within his categorizations, although he acknowledged in women their ability to decide, he states, I quote, "Again, the male is by nature superior, and the female inferior, and the one rules and the other is ruled," which makes it clear that although there are natural superior characteristics in human beings, the ones one is born with, they must be followed by a functional superiority, political and social. As we can see, two of the great Greek philosophers, Plato and Aristotle, do not agree in their conception of the nature of women. But given the fact that this is not the main subject of this paper, here we can only emphasize that in Glycera's epitaph, it is highlighted that she indeed obtained such important attributes for women, eslen kai sophrona, according to the standards imposed by the Greek polis. Thus, it was more important to establish such a standard than praising the woman. Conclusions. As we can see in the use of the noun physis in Attic funerary epigrams from the Classic Age, pretty much everything that is stated has to do with the proper functioning in the polis and what it dictated for its inhabitants. When talking about mortality, about the birthplace opposed to that of one's demise, about the attributes and activities, for example, prudence, wisdom, nobility, and victory obtained in contests, the most important thing was to highlight the relevance they had for the polis, not so much as talking about or praising the actual deceased person. So, the strong hierarchization of Greek society, the patriarchal nature of family, and the organizational conception of the state are reflected even in the meaning of human nature, the physis. Thank you.
Thank you.